So I am a football coach who loves watching the NBA. And I don't just love watching the NBA, I love being able to understand what's happening on a tactical level. I was never a good basketball player. However, I strongly believe that if you're good at one sport, which I was good at football, you kind of have a good understanding of how other sports work. I feel like I have a good understanding of how basketball works. I'm just lacking the technical and physical skill to actually be able to produce anything. But I love watching thinking basketball breakdowns and just understanding how the game's working on a tactical level. And so naturally, as someone who loves to look at different sports for different inspiration, looking at OKC's defense, it's just like, this might be the best defense in the world, not just in basketball, in the world right now, and maybe historically too. And so how can I, as a football coach, draw from that and apply it to a football context? Because arguably, the biggest thing in basketball, which is verticality, historically, right? You know, there's a reason you don't see many 5'7" players. There's a reason if you're 7 foot, you have like a, what is it, something like a 17% chance of making the NBA. Because it's such a vertically dominant sport and they're dominating without great size. They're doing it with great speed, great ground coverage, great one-on-one ability. And so if we take that and we apply that to a football context, while sure there's the thing of if you have all these incredible individual defenders, that's one thing. But I think before that, it's a culture. And when I look at any sort of sports team, you look at sports teams that have had superstars but they've failed. What was their culture? What was the thing driving them when the system or the tactics weren't working? For OKC, they might be getting blitzed up defensively, but they have that culture of we're still going to give 100%. I'm still going to cover for that guy if his man gets beat. I'm still going to take ownership over my 1v1 matchup. And so that culture is already set. So I think it goes culture, then it goes to players. So they have unbelievable one-on-one defenders. Not every football team is going to be able to replicate this, you know. You sort of see it a little bit with Arsenal, their whole backline, they have Rice in midfield, they have unreal presses, like they have the players, but before that, even for Arsenal, there's a culture around defence. There's a culture of we hate conceding, we're going to do whatever we can not to concede. And I think part of the culture for OKC is we are going to make you feel so uncomfortable, we're going to swarm you, we're going to make you feel like basketball is not fun to play. And you watch that Lakers game, you know, Doncic and Reeves, two players on fire, they looked so uncomfortable playing in that game. And that's what a great defense can do to great players. Okay, so again, that's culture. If you have the players then also, which I think this again comes after culture, you can have amazing players, but if you don't have that culture, it's not going to come out. But if you have the culture first and then you have the players, then you really have something. And then you have system/tactics. So for OKC, this is the fact that they can switch. This is the fact that they have a tactic of fronting dominant post players. We saw that with Caruso in Game 7 against Jokic. You know, he just hounded Jokic, made it hard for him to even get the ball. I think you can apply that to a football context. I quite enjoy, I'm like 5'10", not particularly strong or fast, but I enjoy marking big players in football, and I love staying behind, and then as the ball's coming, jumping out, getting in front of them and intercepting the ball. I think it's something that's could be utilised more in football, especially if you've got a spare man. One centre back can front, the other one can cover, just in case that chip ball over the top does come. But again, basketball is a more vertically dominant sport than football, and yet OKC, yes, they have size, but do you remember for a large portion of last year, they were playing with Jalen Williams as their centre at like 6'7". So they can do it with just small guys too, and again, that's the culture. And so I think size is important in football to an extent. We've seen the rise of set pieces recently. And I think the other thing with football is size often does equate to ground coverage too. It's a bit different to basketball. Quite often smaller means you cover more ground. But in football, often bigger, 6', 6'1" dudes like Declan Rice or like Saliba, they can cover so much ground anyway. So it's not necessarily about having small players. It's about having players that can cover ground defensively. And it's about players who can repetitively do that over the course of the match, which is maybe where a taller player might falter. And so if you can really cover ground, like OKC, they make the field feel small. Football teams can do this. I felt like that was something my team did well this year, is we made the field feel small. We pressed you so hard, and it was like, where on earth is the space? There is space. It's in behind or it's on the other side, but there's so much pressure you can't even get the ball there, or it's going to take two passes to get the ball there. And so if you can commit to really cramping in the team on one side and then still have that trust in yourself that if it does go that side, we're going to sprint over there. Or if it does go in behind, we're going to sprint over there. You have that ability to be able to go one-on-one across the pitch, and you have not just good 1v1 defenders, but 1v1 defenders who care so much about locking up their matchup. I think that's what's so important, you know. They really care. Each time they get beaten, each time they make a tackle, it's really good or it's really bad, you know. They care so much about it. I think that comes more into the culture than necessarily the ability of the players. And then if you can also make up for potentially a little bit of a lack of height with fronting players, with making it difficult for that player to even get past the ball, with having hounding ball pressure on the time at all time. It's one thing a player not having time on the ball. It's another thing when a player is hounded when they have the ball. I think Kukurea does this in 1v1 matchups often, and it's why he makes 1v1 wingers feel quite awkward. Like Lamine Yamal, he was not used to being hounded before he gets the ball, once he gets the ball, after he tries to dribble, hounded. Whereas Saka, he's a bit stronger, he's used to a more physical league. He was used to that pressure from Kukurea, and he was able to turn it into fouls and dangerous free kicks. So I think those are the main things. I think ultimately for OKC it's a culture, and you see that with their attitude toward defense. Then it's the players they have. They have incredible defenders across the board, and then they create system and tactics from there. And I think for football you can have that same attitude. I'll use Arsenal as a great example, or even you look at Atletico Madrid teams back in the day. They had a culture first. Doesn't matter who's on the field. The culture is that we suffocate teams and we make it awful for them to play football. Then you have the players. You have the ability of someone like Declan Rice or a Saliba or a Gabriel. Like that absolutely helps. And then you have the system of tactics of like, all right, we're going to hound you. We're going to make it difficult to play a pass. We're going to make it difficult to get it to your star man. We're going to disrupt your star, and that's going to disrupt your whole team. I think these are the main things that football teams can take from OKC, and I think there is a lot that we as football coaches